Chair. Ms. Gonzalez-Avalos, you are recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Jayapal and members of Congress. My name is Emilia Gonzalez-Avalos. I'm Executive Director of Unidos Minnesota. I am here today because our communities are experiencing a human rights and constitutional crisis as a result of Operation Surge and the historic mass deployment of federal immigration officers across Minnesota. I want to speak about Unidos Project Monarca, a coalition of thousands of workers, students, people of faith, parents, clergy, business owners, teachers, caregivers, and young people who have trained over 26,000 everyday Minnesotans as neighborhood observers to help people protect rights where it matters the most, on the ground and in our communities. This work is called constitutional observing. It's peaceful, lawful act of witnessing government activity and ensuring constitutional rights are respected in real time, documenting interactions, de-escalating, and providing transparency where power is being exercised against everyday people. Our protection is our power. We stand for the fundamental freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution, free speech, peaceful protest, and protection for unreasonable searches and seizures. These rights are the backbone of a healthy democracy. They are about dignity, privacy, and safety in our own neighborhoods. We, Minnesotans, are keeping us safe. We are the light. Since the Operation Metro Surge began, our phones have not stopped ringing. This administration continues to argue that these operations target so-called criminals who are a burden to social systems. Yet the reality on the ground tells a different story. Federal agents continue to target workplaces and small businesses, the very places where people contribute to our economy, support their families, and sustain local communities. This administration claims this surge brings security and safety, but at the same time, federal officers are operating around hospitals, schools, and places of worship, spaces that should be protected, not militarized. These actions create fear, disrupt essential services, and send shockwaves far beyond a single arrest. These ripple effects are felt across entire communities and across the state of Minnesota, undermining trust, stability, and public safety itself. We get calls from families whose relatives are predominantly workers with no criminal convictions, were picked up on their way to work while dropping children off to school or simply taking out the trash. We get calls from parents who spend hours waiting for their spouse to come home, only to realize something is wrong and they don't know where to turn. We hear from families and attorneys who have searched for hours for their loved ones. We hear how children as young as 4 years old have been detained and how families are unable to find them in the federal tracking system for hours and days at a time. We hear of warehouses in Minnesota suburbs where people are questioned and processed in the dark without transparency and without clear access to legal counsel. Not only that, the ACLU enforcement complaint form has become the most shared resource among our operators and constitutional observers. It is shared because people are witnessing violations they believe must be documented and reported. As this operation intensifies, so have attacks of those who are simply watching. Trained observers, peaceful, identifiable, and acting within the law have been followed, ordered to stop filming, pushed off sidewalks and roads, violently treated, and threatened with arrest. Some have been violently detained for doing nothing more than exercising their First Amendment rights. When the government treats observers as interference, when witnesses are intimidated, and when cameras are treated as threats, constitutional erosion is no longer theoretical. It is happening in real time. On January 7, 2026, an ICE agent shot and killed our neighbor, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a U.S. citizen and a Minneapolis resident, a moment that sparked grief, outrage, and widespread protest. This tragic death underscores the deep distrust many Minnesotans feel towards federal enforcement apparatus, because people should not have to worry that an encounter with a masked, armed federal agent could cost them their lives. This is not about whether immigration law exists. This is about how power is exercised.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez-Avalos.
Can I wrap up? Chair Jayapal.
Go ahead. If you can make it really fast, we just need to get
I promise
everyone in.
I'm
Thank
wrapping
you.
up. The scale and tactics of Operation Metro Surge have destabilized neighborhoods, separated families, undermined local authorities, and eroded public trust. Communities are not safer, and Minnesota should not be a testing ground for unchecked federal force. I offer this testimony with the awareness of the risk of federal retaliation to myself, my family, our members, and constitutional observers in our workplace, precisely because we have chosen to bring this information into the public record and to exercise the First Amendment rights that are fundamental to our democracy. We need eyes out of Minnesota until our constitutional compliance, transparency, and accountability are restored. Congress must reassert its oversight role, freeze their funds, help prosecute Agent Ross and all agents acting outside the law, and make clear that enforcement goals never justify the suspension of constitutional rights. Our democracy depends on a high-functioning civilian participation and the rule of law, and the rule of law depends on accountability to power. Thank you very much, Chair Jayapal.